Hi, welcome to our webinar. I'm Dr. Perihan Fidan.
And I'm Dr. Abir El-Daba.
We are from Tennessee Technological University, and today we are going to be introducing our session about using multicultural books in mathematics and science classrooms. The outline of our webinar will include three parts. First, we'll talk about why should we use picture books in classrooms. Second, we'll talk about a guide to select multicultural books. And third, we'll introduce you some of our favorite picture books that includes diversity and can be used in math and science classrooms.
So starting with why using picture books in general in classrooms. It gives an opportunity for teachers to differentiate their instructions as you include different format of texts, and at the same time you provide an opportunity for your students to read across the variety of different texts, variety types of texts. Another point which was proved by research is that picture books appeal to adolescents, so as they can get off dealing with just the traditional textbooks, so they have some time to go through picture books, which is kind of fun, considered fun for them, but at the same time they're learning. And so it gives them some motivation and facilitate their learning of difficult academic concepts in different content areas. Of course, for ELL students, it's an ideal opportunity for them as you include visual aids with discussing academic concepts.
When we select picture books, it's important to choose books that are quality in literature. Also, books' effectiveness of the details and the accuracy of topics and concepts being studied is important as well. We need to make sure that it captures the interest of the students. It's proven that by research that teachers exhibited enthusiasm has positive effect on student interest and curiosity. Also, we need to be careful that books' ability to achieve the objectives of a particular lesson and the books facilitates understanding of abstract concepts needs to be important as well. We need to be careful on choosing books that has intensity of information and it has to meet the standards that is provided, and it has to have the detailed information about it. Another important detail is books' portrayal of diversity. We need to be careful choosing books that depict diversity positively in both text and illustration.
So now we are moving just to share with you some of the books that we think they're good for mathematics and science classrooms, and also include different races and different culture, people of different cultures. So the first book that I will share with you is Counting on Catherine, and this is about Katherine Johnson, the African-American lady, the first African-American lady who worked at NASA, and she was portrayed in the movie Hidden Figures. So the book starts with her childhood, and when she was 10 years old, she was ready to go to the high school, but because of segregation, she was not able to join the school, so her family had to move to a new city where she could join high school. When she graduated, she worked as that's when she was rejected for high school. So when she graduated, she worked as a teacher, and then she got an opportunity to work at NASA after 1 year. She worked there, and she was the one who was able to calculate the mathematical calculations of Apollo 13 landing. So it's very good for sharing this story, and powerful for different students of different races, different cultures.
My first book is called Sadako and the 1,000 Paper Cranes.
Sorry
This
for
book-
the train.
This is a real story about a girl called Sadako who lived during World War II in Hiroshima, Japan. When the US dropped a atom bomb on Hiroshima, she was about 2 years old. And the story is when she was 11 years old and she was still living in Japan. At the time when she was 11 years old, she was a star student in a running team in her elementary school. And suddenly she starts feeling ill, and the doctors realized that she had leukemia, which is also called atom bomb disease. And she starts spending her days in hospital, lying down and getting treatments. And the legend in Japan says that when a person who is sick makes 1,000 paper cranes, their wishes come true. So to believe in that legend, she started making paper cranes from papers. As the story goes, she feels sick and she dies before she finishes her 1,000 paper cranes. This story is a true story that includes how the war destroyed the people, and also how the war affects people who survived and died because of the wars going on. This story has an amazing job introducing death to the young people, and also you can use this book in science to talk about the effects of the chemicals. It doesn't just affect the people in that area and in that time, but also it affects the people who live there and the time after.
So the next book that we're gonna share with you is One Grain of Rice by Demi. And if you're teaching multiplication, specifically exponents, this book will be great to introduce that idea of doubling. So it's about an Indian man. It's an Indian folk tale, and it's about an Indian man who keeps the rice in his village, and he doesn't want to share it with the people in his village during a famine time. So one smart girl, she decided to meet with him and ask him for 1 grain of rice, 1 grain of rice, which he can double each day for 30 days. So she starts with 1 grain on the first day, and on the 30th day she will end up with over 500 million grains of rice. So it shows how quickly numbers grow when they're doubled, and facilitate the students' understanding of multiplications and exponents.
Our next book is called What's Your Angle, Pythagoras. In this story, it talks about Pythagoras' theorem and talks about the boy whose name is Pythagoras and who lives in Greece. Pythagoras is a boy who is very curious, And one day he sees some people arguing because they made a ladder, 12 feet ladder, for a 12 feet tall wall. However, the ladder wouldn't reach the top of the wall. And the men are arguing about how to fix the solution, this problem. And later, when his father wants to take him to an island, they talk about going to one island to get to the other island. He asks his father, why doesn't he go directly to the island that's farther away? And his father says that he doesn't know how the directions of that island and he could get lost. And it continues, he sails with his father, and on the first island they met a guy. And he talks about how he uses a rope that has knots in it to figure out make it a right angle and find out the length of the tile that he's going to be using. This man shows Pythagoras how to make the knots and how to perform the finding of the tiles. Pythagoras found that when he puts the square tiles around the triangle, he makes a different triangle. So he sees that each one of the sides, which is 3, 4, and 5, squares of 3 and the squares of 4, that's our sides, makes the square of the square of the 5, that is the side of the across the other two. And he realizes that whenever he uses this theorem, it will always work. To find the larger side, you need to make sure that take the square of the other two sides and add them together. The Pythagorean theorem is a very important theorem in mathematics, and this shows how the square of A plus square of B equals the square of C. This book has beautiful pictures that explains how it works. It doesn't only work on one triangle, but it works on all the triangle which has the right sides. So at the end, he finds that his father can take the route to the island that's far away by using the measurements distance from one island to the other. And at the end, they found a very quicker route to the farther island.
Okay, the next book is a rhyming fun book, Scientist, Who Do You See? And it features different scientists from different cultures. So it goes from Albert Einstein to Darwin to a whale from Egypt with chemistry to Chinese scientists to Grace Hopper with computer inquiry. And it's just the reading level, of course, is low for kindergarten or first grade. But if you use it with older kids, you can add a research point that they can search these names and they can come up with the background and what did they do with their scientific inventions and scientific theories. And the book, the author of the book is Chris Ferry.
My next book is Marie Curie. This book is written by Demi, and it's the picture book beautifully portrays the life of Marie Curie, who is the revolutionary scientist and winner of 2 Nobel Prizes. it starts with the beginning life of Marie Curie. It shows that how she started the school when she was only 4 years old. She was smart, she was a very smart girl, and she was younger than all the rest of the students in her classroom. When she wanted to go to the university in her town, they didn't allow girls to attend the university, so she went to Paris. However, school was very expensive, and they couldn't afford for her and her sister, older sister, to go to the university. So she worked as a governess for a family, and her sister attended the school. After her sister graduated the university, they switched roles, and Marie Curie started the university, and her sister worked. When she was at the university, she graduated she graduated first in her class with a degree in advanced physics. And later the next year, she graduated as second in her class by the degree in mathematics. Later on, she worked with another scientist called Pierre Curie. Yeah. Pierre Curie. And after they got married, they found that there's another element in uranium. When they researched the element uranium, they found that it radiates radiation. And later on, they are the first person to invent the word radioactive. And they found the element called radium. At first, people didn't know how dangerous the element radium was. They used in all sorts of beautification, like they used in airplanes, and they used in watches, and they used in face powders. When people started to get sick, they realized how dangerous the radium was. However, it was almost too late. Marie Curie spent all her life working under the radiation, and she got sick and died when she was only 66 years old. However, Marie Curie is one of the first person to get 2 Nobel prizes. One of them is with her husband for the founding of element radium, and the second was one for the founding of the element polonium.
Okay, the next book is The Girl with a Mind for Math, and this is the story of Ray Montague. So she is the African-American engineer who designed the first ship in the U.S. And also, when she was young, it starts with her story. When she was young, she was not able to enroll in an engineer department at college because of the racial segregation again, and she worked as just a typewriter where they built submarines. She used to watch the engineer and listen to their discussion of designing submarines and ships, and that's how she got her learning and knowledge until one day the President of the United States asked the commander to build the first ship for the U.S. and in a short time. So she was able to finish the design. She volunteered to do the design, and she did it in just over 18 hours. She was able to finish the design of the first ship. They did the celebration for the ship. However, she was not invited to the celebration of the ship that she designed herself. The story goes on, and finally, after some years, she got honored, and they give her recognition of being an engineer, and just introduces her story in a very attractive and appealing way for children and adolescents.
My next book is Anna's Canton book. This is a wordless Canton book. It creates a whole story town filled with people and other objects. So it starts with the letter number 0 and it continues as the numbers grow. What happens is also not only the numbers grows, but objects in the pictures grows. So every picture has one added element to it. As the pictures grows, also the seasons changing. This book has up to 12, number 12, and it also talks about, shows about how the people are working in different pictures which has different seasons. You can talk about, as a math, we can talk about how many objects it has on each picture. Also you can talk about groups and sets. You can talk about seasons and also talk about how the people are working on each different pictures and each different seasons. It's a great book for younger audiences, younger kids, but also you can, for the older kids, you can talk about making up stories and you can talk about sets and the groups that grows in each picture.
We have a handout actually of all of these books with the authors and a brief description of the books. If you would like, you can email us your email and we will be glad to email you the handouts.
Our emails are...
As we're going to put it on the website.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
I have additional books that are similar to the ones that we introduced. One of them is Joan Proctor, the Dragon Doctor. She is the first female zoologist. And May Among the Stars talks about the first African American woman who went to space.
This is Spring After Spring, and this is about Rachel Carson, who inspired the environmental movement in the U.S. And this book is written by Stephanie Sisson.
And thank you for listening our webinar.
Thank you.